Evan, how are you today?
Good. How are you, Cody?
Good, good. What have we been doing this week, Evan?
So we're sitting here at Farm Science Review in London, Ohio. First year having a booth up here is Easy Custom Ag, so that's been exciting. We've had a couple speakers from BW Fusion talking about their new baseline soil testing program that they have. We've been mingling with Brant. They're talking a lot about their smart system and how they've been improving that over the years, and had a lot of good grower feedback. A lot of frustrated growers. The yields aren't going to be where they're wanting to be this year simply because of the weather. We had floods early, and then we've come into a drought period here since the middle of July. And then looking at commodity prices versus fertilizer prices puts a lot of guys in some tough spots. So we've had a lot of conversations on how we can improve efficiencies and return on investment on their farms.
Sure. So tell me a little bit more about what the weather situation was this year.
So I know on our farm we've had 40 inches of rain since January 1, and we've had 0 inches of rain since July 20th. So we had a very wet spring, a lot of drowned out spots, tough to get things planted. And then we come into the backside of that. We lost all our bottoms due to water. Now we've lost all of our hills due to lack of water. So It's been kind of tough from a farming perspective.
Yep. Have you been out there and dug any roots or heard anybody that's seen what's going on under the soil out there?
I've dug quite a few roots. We're in a strip till system on our farm, and a lot of those roots have sunk in and are digging for water hard. It's probably been 2 or 3 weeks since we did a lot of root digs, but they were really searching. We're sitting here on September the 18th. We're supposed to get up to 90 degrees today. We've had extremely warm temperatures for the time of year that it is. So I think that's also, it's going to be a help to try to dry some of this corn down. Where we were planting it in June, we were going to have a hard time, getting it dried down. But coming into these warmer temperatures, I think we're going to get a lot more dry down and burn a lot less propane this fall, which is a good thing.
Yep. So have you guys started harvest yet?
We have. We started about a week ago. We've ran about 400 acres of beans. They're in the 60s, so I can't complain about that with the weather we've had.
Yep.
In July, when we were spraying fungicide on them, I thought we had, 75 or 80 bushel beans, but lack of water, we couldn't fill those pods.
Sure. Pretty small bean size, or what's that looking like?
The bean size is not near as small as what I had expected. We had a lot of flat pods just because they were aborted, but we had, above average bean size, I would say, and I contribute a lot of that to the potassium that we're putting on late with KB.
Okay, good. So have you heard anybody out there? You haven't done any corn yet?
No.
What's the word on the street on corn?
I've heard a lot of 23% corn. I haven't heard any yields on corn yet, but a lot of guys running them through shellers or, hand shelling it, they're getting, between 23 and 25% moisture. So I think we get through the weekend and get into Monday, there'll be a lot more guys shelling corn or getting the combines in beans.
Yep. Good. So has that affected Farm Science Review? How's the attendance been this year?
I would say that it is down compared to past years just because of guys being in combines, and also the farm economy. There's not a lot of money to go around. So Farm Science Review is a good place to kick the tires and, look at new iron. And I don't think the money is flowing to the point where guys are really looking for that new iron this year. They're going to look to keep what they've got, maybe put some parts into that. And I think that's why we've had some traffic, as guys are really looking to build that efficiency back into their operation.
Good. So how have you guys been able to do that, or what have you been looking at on your farm to build efficiency?
So I mentioned the BW Fusion was speaking about their new soil sampling program and software with Agronomy 365 and Baseline RX. We're able to look at that soil test not with like a 12 metric soil test like you would at most labs. We're actually looking at one that has over 75 metrics on it. So we can really dig deep into the soil that you have. We can look at the release that your soil is going to give you, whether that's a good or bad factor. And digging through your WEOC, your WEON, your VAST, SLAN, your standard soil test metrics, we can look at a lot of those things, predict the release from your soil, and either add different nutrients or pull back on a lot of nutrients to get the most effective and efficient rate of fertilizer to that plant for your yield goal and for your acre.
Good. Good.
So when we're in an environment where we're buying $950 MAP and DAP, it doesn't pay to dump all that money out there and not get the good out of it. We all know that phosphorus ties up in a lot of soils, depending on your pH and the chemistry behind it. But we also look at a lot of soils that have thousands of pounds of phosphorus out there. So we need to be releasing that and cycling it. We're not trying to mine the soil. We're trying to release and cycle those nutrients so that we can get the good out of the dry that we've spread in the past, or what our actual soils can give to us just naturally. We look at products like 401, BioCast Max, BioBoost. They're all phosphorus solubilizers, in-fixers. They deal with potassium to try to pull that out of the soil. We can use those products that come at a cost, but they're at a lower price point than if we were trying to get the same fertilizer dollars out of a dry application. So we can fix a lot of the short-term needs with those products and get guys through to another year.
Good. So I guess tell me about some of those products that are working in that system.
So with BW Fusion, they have what I call their numbered products: 101, 201, 301, 401, and 501. So 401 and 501 are the two that we use in crop production. 401 is going to be more of your in-furrow teams of biology that are working to release nutrients. They can go broadcast, they can go in-furrow, they can now go on seed. But they're really going to be your soil releasing bacteria team or biology teams. Where when we look at 501, which we sell as Meltdown, that's more of your stubble digester. It's going to release the nutrients out of your residue and make that available for the next crop. So that way you don't have corn stalks 3 years later that are still holding that phosphorus and potassium that could have been released back and used in the crops that you've grown since. So utilizing those two products, either as 401 and BioBoost, 501 in the Meltdown product, or we look at BioCast Max, which is a combination of both of them that can be used either in a wide drop, a side drop application, and try to get the synergy of releasing from the soil, keeping it from getting tied up in the soil, and also releasing it out of that residue. We kind of get the best of both worlds with that BioCast Max, which BW Fusion also gives you a guarantee of a 15-35-15 analysis on that. So we're looking at releasing or capturing 15 pounds of nitrogen, releasing 35 pounds of phosphorus, and releasing 15 pounds of potassium. So when you go to add that up, like I said, we're looking at commodity prices of $950 MAP and DAP. So we take $400 32, $400 potash. We take those out of the equation. That 35 pounds of phosphorus is really going to cost you the equivalent of $250 a pound or $250 a ton MAP. So when we look at it that way, it's a very cost-effective way to utilize what's already in our soil and save ourselves some money on the front end, knowing that we can raise the same kind of crop for less dollars.
Sure. Good deal. Any other products that stand out on the BW Fusion side of things?
I think really I want to say that BioBoost is something that has kind of changed the game in the planter box technology. We've seen a lot of planter box things come down the line. A lot of them require mixing, or they're only seed stable for 24 hours. I talked about we had a tough spring. Man, farmers don't have time to be making these mixes, or you get rained out, you've used half a box of seed. Well, we've either got to reapply to that seed or we've got to change seed out altogether. Guys are not able to, we don't have the time to do that.
Sure.
BioBoost is an all-in-one in one container. We were in buckets. We've now moved to a plastic container that's easier to shake on the seed. And it's seed stable for a year. It's stable on the shelf for 2 years. Guys don't have to worry about putting it on and, oh man, we're going to get rained out this afternoon.
Yep.
That gives them a lot of peace of mind, and the results we've been seeing have been phenomenal. A lot of guys have been pulling in-furrow off their planters, which I was a huge in-furrow proponent, for the past 10 years when we've been in this business. Had a lot of great success with it. But when we look at the cost of in-furrow products versus the cost of BioBoost and the return on investment, we've steered a lot of guys to the BioBoost direction. Maybe not the best profit margin for our business, but we want to keep guys in business.
Yep.
This is a tough economy, and we've got to keep guys moving forward. So we've moved a lot of our customers to the the BioBoost era, the planter box treatment space, because we're still getting the same results and we can do it at a lower price point with more ease. We're not taking liquid to the field. We're not requiring a guy to bring that out with a tender. We can do it all, as we're putting seed in the planter that we have to do anyways. It replaces your talc and graphite or dust if you're going that way. It's actually a dust base, so it's made out of soybeans, which is great for American soybean farmers, and just been a great overall product to use. Very clean.
Good. Good.